but the overall volume of the students who goes from India to the abroad has changed massively.
Studying abroad used to be a dream, but now it's a calculated decision.
Is this Ivy League, and what's special about it?
Actual term Ivy League, it came out of a sports group. 8 universities came out of sports league, and that's when the Ivy League started.
And every time the budget comes in, I always stick myself to the news to hear that what's happening in the space of the education.
Sent the budget for the year 2026-2027.
And if you look at the number of seats available, it's about 1.1 lakh. So the ratio is too less.
Because many of my friends, they just joined Starbucks because they wanted to learn how to make that coffee.
But still, I think education should take a little bit more priority compared to others.
How safe and open, and if I just talk about the US,
Student visas are getting rejected left, right and center.
what is that India loses the most? Every time a student decides कि boss मैं नहीं पढ़ूंगा India में, I'll go and study abroad.
A student or goes to abroad, any country, it's a loss for an India.
When we talk about the salary becomes 15x, you also have to think from the lens that their cost of living is also accordingly bigger.
But still, you cannot compare what you would make there to what you would make here.
Only 35% of the people who go abroad, they come back.
Agenda is to make money,
Yeah.
then it makes no sense to stay here.
They have given a big relief to the parents who wants to send their wards abroad.
Parents would not stop sending their wards because we have to do 5% TCS.
Hello everyone, I am Vishwa Mohan. I am the CEO of upGrad School of Tech, and today I am again recording a very exciting episode on the Off the Record. Now today we have taken a very interesting topic, the talk of the town for the students, the bright futures of the India. The term brain drain is not a new one. It has been coined many years back. Everyone in every debate for last 15-16 years that I have been the part of the system, I've heard it many of the times. But today this whole term itself has got a totally new meaning itself. In the today's discussion, we're gonna decipher that what it takes and why the people in India, the students, are planning to go abroad and study. And when we do it, we'll not only see from the lens about the university ranking, the quality of the education, but we'll try to understand the psychic of the students, what goes there in the mind. Today, when the ages of internet and the information, it has totally changed how it was 15 years back. Maybe 15 years back, people were trying to figure it out, that golden dream of going abroad, doing studies and come back. Today, in this age of internet, they know exactly what happens. They are aware that not the grass is greener the other side. Still, they are taking those decisions, and why, that's what we're going to discuss on. But before I introduce our guest, I'd like to put some stats so that we know a few numbers here. As of now, close to 1.5 million people are studying abroad in the different type of the courses. In 2024 itself, close to 7.5 lakh people migrated from India to the foreign land for doing their higher studies. Now, just for your context, it was 15% down from the last year, which is 2023. But if I compare to 2016, it is 2.5x more. So now we have seen a dip, but the overall volume of the students who goes from India to the abroad has changed massively. Now, the question is, why they move? Is it only the quality of the education that drives that? The ranking of the university? Now, in the growing countries like us, like India, education is considered as more of like a certificate to earn big. But if we talk about the realistic numbers, in India, a graduate, if they are able to manage jobs, the average salary in India is still close to around 2.25 to 2.5 lakhs, which means $4,000 a year. The same time, when a student graduates, say for example, United States, their average salary is close to around $60,000, which is 15x more than what a candidate in India gets after the graduation. The question is simple, is the students moving just for the sake of the degree, or they're moving to have a fair market value, they're moving to have a better salary and better standard of living itself. Now, interestingly, just few days back, we also had our 2026 budget announced. Now, in that budget itself, likely the government has increased the budget by 8% overall for the education sector. But at the same time, they've also reduced the TCS from 5% to 2%. For those parents who wants to send their wards outside, they have to now pay little less cash because the TCS has been brought down. That again brings the question, is the government supporting the brain drain, or they're just trying to support the inevitable that the students will migrate to the place which gets them the better opportunities? In order to talk all of that, I am very happy and excited to invite a very apt guest, Dr. Vivek, who has seen both the worlds. So he started his graduation in the country, he completed his BTech, then moved to abroad, and have spent enough number of times and have seen through what the student goes through, and he has seen from all the different lenses. So very appropriate. So ladies and gentlemen, everyone who's watching it, please help me, allow me to welcome Dr. Vivek. Dr. Vivek, welcome to this Off the Record show where we try to keep it very practical. We don't try to be democratically right. We don't try to be diplomatically right, and we just try to say the words which typically the people wants to hear in the right context. So before we get started, we talk about your journey and take a lot of questions which might be very valuable to the students who's watching that. Why don't you quickly introduce yourself so the people have the context that what we're gonna talk about in the next few minutes?
Sure. Thank you, Vishwa. It's great to be here at upGrad School of Tech, and thank you for the opportunity to share some of the things which I've seen through over the last decade or so, and that might help one of the youngsters who's aspiring to either study here or abroad. I would love to shed some light on that. A short intro to myself. As you mentioned, I'm an engineering graduate by education. I studied here in India. Then I went to New York University for my master's in computer science, and then I did a couple of degrees there, and I went to Harvard Business School just to see what Ivy League is and what the term Ivy means and so forth. And then I was a director and a professor in New York University. I was teaching computer science when I started. Then I moved towards the business education towards later end of the career. Then as a director in New York University, I've seen hundreds and thousands of students who were coming to NYU who wanted to study abroad, right? I've mentored them from different parts of the world. I've tried to see both student perspective. Being me as a student, I was able to put them or guide them or mentor them in a better position, what their ambitions were from different parts of the world per se. Of course, you will see a lot of diversity when it comes to study abroad. And I've also seen some of the students who finished their graduation and wanted to move back to India. Yeah. So I've seen different kinds of students and different ambitions, what they wanted to do. So we've last a couple of years, more than a decade I spent in NYU. I've understood all this, and then when I moved back to India, I tried to give that to students as part of my mentorship and consulting. And currently, I am a professor of computer science, teach at Siddhartha, and I also take up administrative responsibility. I'm currently serving as the advisor to Honorable Chancellor, Dr. G. Parmeshwara sir. In his absence, I take care of his education empire, end to end, engineering, medical, dental, and across. We have about close to 100 institutions under the umbrella of SAHE, and I manage that on a day-to-day basis. And I try to bring what is missing in the Indian education system from the Western world, what I have seen through, to our local market.
Fair point. I believe nobody better fits than you to be the part of this debate or this discussion that we're going to have today. So, Dr. We will talk about each part of your journey, and we'll try to also understand and do the analogy to the real world. Mm-hmm. And I think many people who are watching this, they must be interested. But let's start with the first elephant in the room itself. We talked about, you used a word called as Ivy League.
Right.
Now, in Indian context, people have been using this word Ivy League, but I can say with full confidence that half of the people who use this word, they don't understand. Many of them feel that it's an institute, it's a college, it's a university. So let's first address the elephant in the room. What is this Ivy League and what's special about it?
Ivy League has, if you look at the actual term Ivy League, it came out of a sports group. 8 universities came out of sports league, and that's when the Ivy League stand. But beyond that, these universities typically have been really advanced in terms of research and the ecosystem which they have been created to nurture that, right? It could be innovations, research, or the teaching. This is, I would say, the teaching itself is only 10 part of what Ivy League will get you. The remaining 90% is what they have curated for that. That's what Ivy League means. It is the standard of living, standard of entitlement, standard in the society, and just getting into an Ivy League gives you stands. You got in. That's such a big thing for you to say. Getting into itself, because Ivy League have a reputation of admitting probably about 3 to 5% of the applications which take. Just getting in itself, which tells you that you are better in terms of not just academics, intellectually per se. And the journey ecosystem, what they have created is what they really differs them. They have beautiful infrastructure. I'm not talking about just the physical infrastructure per se. Physical infrastructure, anybody and everybody can
Right.
create. It's the professors, it's the research, it's the labs and innovative new center of excellence which they create to nurture these young minds, what makes them unique per se.
Right, right. Cool. So I think that's bring me a very, and I always try to relate it with the India context so that people have more pointers to quite relate that how the Ivy League of the world and typically the institute that we have in the country right now. So if we talk about the India, we have few premier institutes. For example, we have Indian Institute of Technologies, we have IISc, which
Right.
again are touted that are extremely competitive.
Right,
They go and select only few fraction of the people.
right.
And then we have the other segment of the colleges and universities in the country itself. And we can clearly see the demarcation in terms of the outcomes, results,
Absolutely.
everything, compared to what we have, say, like Tier 1, which is the ITs, and rest other universities and ecosystem that we have in the country right now. The similar gap is there in the developed countries like US, UAC, where we have a league of university, which is Ivy League, but there are other universities also. Do you see a similar gap? Or if, let's say that in India, people normally feel that if I don't get into the IT, maybe, I miss something very big. Is that gap there also existing in the university system that they have?
Yes, in a short form, but not how much it's in India.
Okay.
The gap. For example, MIT is not part of Ivy League, but it's a fantastic school.
Yeah.
You can compare, or in few parameters they may do exceedingly well compared to the Ivy League itself.
Yeah.
Of course, there are plenty of universities, but most of the universities, rather than increasing the number of universities, the government and the ecosystem itself in Western countries is towards the innovation and entrepreneurship and the research activities which do.
Right.
I think in what we do, our education in Indian education system, we try to create number of courses, number of institutes, number of universities, just for the number's sake.
Yeah.
We are not addressing the quality. We are
Yeah.
just working on the quantity of universities,
Yeah.
on the numbers.
Yeah.
I think that gap is wider in India and much lesser in the Western countries.
Fair point, and I think that naturally brings to me a question. So very lately, our government has announced the budget, right? And every time the budget comes in, I always stick myself to the news to hear that what's happening in the space of the education. Right? Again, this time we have few numbers into the plate. Say, for example, the government has increased the budget from the last time by 8% on the overall education. There are also few announcements, as you mentioned, that few new IIMs are going to open, which is 3. But typically, then again said that with the kind of the population that we kind of cater to, more than billion population that we have,
Right.
even the increased number of IITs and IIMs still is very less compared to how many people are
Absolutely.
deserving, right?
Yes.
And one of the reason when we boast about that IITs had very high cutoff or IIMs have a very high cutoff, the reason is not that it's too tough. The reason is that many less seats
There is
are
no-
there,
exactly.
and because the number of seat itself is so less, it's bound to have the high competition and the less selectivity. So
True.
this is what we see here. But if I want to see through the lens, let's say that if a Ivy League institute has to decide, or let's say that he has to orchestrate the total budget of X dollars that they have got, what they normally focus on, I think you subtly mentioned that instead of just increasing the intake or number of the institutes, but can you just try to throw a little light around that, how normally they allocate their budgets on inside intra-university expenses, how normally they allocate their budgets on?
I was part of budgeting when I was with NYU as well.
Awesome.
When we get a departmental budget, 60% of the budget goes straight into research. We have
Okay.
chaired professors. We recruit faculty from best of the best places who would do projects for us. 60% with no questions asked, just go to the tenured professors who are doing excellent research. That could be, again, it is subdivided into establishing a center of excellence, lab, or recruiting people for buying equipments, whatever that is. 60% straight gone. And another 20% goes into your operating budget. So whatever to run the office and stuff. Another 20% gets divided into your future expansion, whatever the projects you want to be in. That's where they get all the money, And there is a lot of the presidents of the universities. Forget about the government itself. Of course, government does pump in a lot of money into it, but there are a lot of presidents of the university. The president of the university's job is to raise funds,
Yeah.
endowment funds. NYU, they used to raise $1 million every day. That was he was doing. A lot of this endowment funds, 100% of that goes towards research and scholarships for the needy. So that's where these things. See, research is expensive.
Right.
It takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of patience. It takes few years of your chunk to be able to come something substantial.
Right.
And to be able to afford that, university should be financially strong, and the government or the private parties who are involved in it should be strong enough to support it. And they have better support than what we do. Talking about our budget, which came out yesterday, they released 8%. 8%, as you said, for our magnitude is peanuts.
Right.
Talking about three aims. If you look at the NEET data, last year in 25, there were about 24.5 lakhs aspirants, out of which 14 lakh did qualify. And if you look at the number of seats available, it's about 1.1 lakh. Yeah. So the ratio is too less. Adding three more aims of 150 or let's say 250 seats per year, that's adding another 750 seats. 14 lakh aspirants and you have 1.1 lakh, and adding 750 seats will not add much to it. So this is very negligible, I would say. If you really want to make the difference, I think there are a lot of funds have to be invested, whether government is doing, bringing it from the venture capitalists or from the industry. A lot has to go with the research and the ecosystem to build with it. It's just not setting up a lab. The entire ecosystem has to be built, and that's where the money has to go.
Right. I think you've touched the right nerves. Many of the students who are right now writing the JEE mains and IIT NEET examination, they might be also watching this episode, and I think you have touched the right nerves. But I'll try to take a little more serious question on it. We always talk about the university ranking, and I think one of the biggest parameter which puts any university on a higher rank is number of patents, number of research papers that goes on. And it looks very natural and organic that if someone is investing 60% of their budget around the research itself, they're bound to do good in that direction. But do you see the reason the US or other developed countries are able to put that much of money in the research project, and we as a country, India, we struggle committing that much of amount, as also to do with the phase of development that we are in right now? This third world countries, typically how they call it, we are still in the development phase where
Correct.
the basic need of the people is to earn enough, where the first, for example, if I take analogy from my own career itself, I did my engineering from my one of the top engineering colleges in the country, but my basic motive behind doing engineering was that I should get a good job, right? And research was nowhere. And that I can say to almost everyone who's doing BTech in the IITs, though they are the best minds in the country, but the focus is not at all on the. So do you think that has to do also something with the cycle of the development where we are a big country, high
Yes.
population, we have other burning problems to address first, so, and that's why the government, we understand it's easy to say that government should put that much of money, do that, put all the money, and then we go and change. But the kind of the population burden that we have had right now, and we are in the development phase, is that an impact because of which, even though we have talent and we have intentions, but we have not been able to execute things
Right,
at that
I
pace?
totally agree with you. Our priorities are slightly different when it comes to the developed country versus a developing country. But still, I think education should take a little bit more priority compared to others, right? That is, that's the foundation for everything. Whatever we want to do, the education has to be right. See, a lot of these. And coming to the adding on to that, you mentioned brain drain at the beginning.
Yeah.
I think this is why it is adding. The brain drain is because of the same reason. We are not given enough importance or emphasis for the education. And there is a lot more opportunities and the different way of learning. And that's why a lot of people go. It's not that Indians are not capable of.
Yeah.
They are equally intelligent or better in most of the cases per se,
Yeah.
but they have better opportunities when they move abroad, and that's why they tend to go. And coming up to your priorities, like you wanted to just earn, right? Make sure that your family is fed and stuff. Even that is better when you go abroad. Your finances, as you mentioned at the
Yeah.
beginning,
Yeah.
you earn 15, 20 times more.
More. Yeah.
If your agenda is to make money,
Yeah.
then it makes no sense to stay here.
Right.
Right? You just, it makes it very easy. A simple decision to just, I want to go study abroad so I
Yeah.
can have a better return on investment. Plain and simple.
Yeah.
So it's both. A lot of people go that way. I mean, I as a advisor and a director, I've been reviewing applications, and most of them who come for a better living. That's a
Okay.
significant part of it.
Fair
Over
point.
there.
So with that, I come to an interesting part now. So we have talked about the Ivy League. We have talked about the allocation, how they are doing better in the ranking because of the research. Now let's talk about the crowd who's watching us. You know, these are the people who are just coming out from the schools, or maybe they have completed the engineering and they want to go abroad.
Okay.
So I know, Dr. Vivek, that you keep yourself occupied in this space. I think you also consult where you help people go from India and study abroad.
Yes.
So I'm pretty sure that this is a regular conversation that you might be having with the parents and the students. So what do the students in India think right now about the foreign education? And I think you have partly answered that, but I want you to little deep dive.
Sure.
So when they think that I have to have my studies done in the US or UK or any other developed country, what are the main things which are there in the mind of the students, and what is the mind of the parents? So I want to cover
Sure.
both the aspect, that what goes in the mind of a student, a typical 12th pass, or maybe like a just done the graduation in the country right now. And then what is the expectation of an Indian parent who are sending their wards to a new land, and like if you can delve those lights on it.
Sure. It has a lot to do with their family background per se. We have Ambanis
Yeah.
who had all the money.
Yeah.
They didn't want any ROI, but they still went for HBS only because they wanted the better education. Naturally, the Ivy League was catchy for them, and of course they did, and they're doing extremely well. If you look at the mass crowd, there the idea is I want to have a better return on my investment. It's not just on financially, it is for the time and the money you have spent and what you have learned. Here in India, the parents are very protective of their wards. They do everything for them. They're spoon fed, what I would call. But when you go, the same kid, when he goes to, let's say, US or UK, he has to do everything on his own, and he becomes much more independent, and he learns from that process. That is the key. I suggest everyone who actually considering it, irrespective of whatever university you get in, you should experience that, because experience is what makes you or breaks you, not your education. Your experience will define you who you are. Your next future depends on what kind of education you get and what kind of experiences you get while you are acquiring that education. I think it's a good idea for everyone to explore. And if you see, a lot of people who come out of their hometown or comfort zone who go out somewhere else, not necessarily US or abroad, even in India, they perform better compared to a ward who would then. And that's what the research says. So as a parent, they want better for their kids, or more it's like Indian mentality is like, I did not have access to this. My ward should have better access to than what I had.
Right.
And at whatever comfort zone or whatever cost it comes, they want to send their kids. So they think that they want the best for the kids, and the best for them is abroad because they have had education here in India.
Right.
And they have, I'm sure they have some or a lot struggles coming up. So they don't want that for their ward. And the ward necessarily does not think that on the same direction or the same level, but he wants to go have fun. He wants to go experience it. It's not that he is deprived of any of the facilities for himself, but he wants to go and explore that world, be independent, learn. We have students who have every luxury here. They just want to come there and do party. We have students who come there who are dead serious. If you take of New York, New York has probably the most number of bars and clubs. Every nook and corner in New York you go, there is one. You will never be able to hop onto one bar every day, and you'll still left with few bars. So there is a lot of distraction which comes in, and students still thrive in that environment as well because they are so focused on what they want to achieve. So it really depends on what they really want, and most of them want good return on investment.
Okay. So, but here, just to give the real context, and I want you to be fully natural when you speak this with complete honesty. If we circle back few years back, when the young, you're still very young, but a super young Dr. Vivek was in India and he was planning to go US. What all things were going in his mind? Like he was more excited to the work, and again, you don't have to. You have to present your true young self.
Absolutely, I
What
will.
all things was going
I
in your
will, I will.
mind? What you were excited more about? It was college, or you felt that you get to meet so many new people that
Right.
adrenal high age where typically you're full of hormones.
Yes.
What all things were there in your mind that time?
All of this, a combination
Okay.
of all of this. I'll tell you.
Yeah.
When I graduated from my undergrad, I had no intentions of going abroad per se.
Okay.
I wanted to settle here. I wanted to be an entrepreneur always. So I wanted to do something on my own. Right. And then I met somebody, a dad's friend of mine, who said, why don't you consider US? I would guide you. Then my parents said, why don't you think about it? That's when I looked, what will it take to get into university? Then I started prepping for GRE and TOEFL, and I gave those exams after a few months of preparation. And then the application process. You would go on the internet. Internet, of course, it was not as informative as it is today. It was less information. Where we used to fill out an online application, they used to send us information booklets. It used to come to our postal address, which has all the brochures and so forth.
Yeah.
I had 3 admits. One was from NYU, University of Sacramento is another one, and University of Texas. I chose NYU for 2 reasons, right?
Okay.
The very first, I grew up in Tumkur.
Yeah.
When I came to Bangalore, when I was working for a short period of time, prepping for all this, it was so diversified. From tier 2 to tier 1 was very exciting. As I said, I'm like, wow, this is an entire different world. Now imagine 100x New York City.
True.
I said,
True.
this is it. The other 2, I don't want to go, New York City.
Yeah.
Of course, when you look at the campus itself, NYU is a real estate hub. So the real estate itself, when you think of a foreign university, at that time, what I had in mind is it's a huge campus, 400, 500 acre green campus, what we see in movies and whatnot. But NYU is not like that. It's New York City itself is a concrete jungle.
Yeah.
So you don't find that university landscape per se. You will have tall buildings where the university is hosting. But still, I wanted to be here, experience that diversity. And I've heard and read a lot of about New York City, how the city never sleeps.
Yeah.
I wanted to experience that. And that's one of the reasons why I chose. And of course, we have studied, and computer science, I took computer science there. 2 of the professors who were teaching there, we used to study those textbooks as reference books in VTO curriculum.
Wow.
I'm like, I wanted to be in that class.
Wow.
Just to be part of that, I went. I had no imagination whether I would get in or not. NYU is very selective. Luckily, somehow we got in and managed to do it.
Yeah.
But for these 2 reasons, I selected New York University.
Yeah.
Financially, this was the most expensive one. I know this would be a lot of burden, but of course, banks and parents were there to support.
Yeah.
So my decision was purely because I wanted to enjoy the New York City and be in the classrooms with best of the best.
Awesome. So we'll talk about this, the classroom exposure and the life and also the cosmopolitan experience that you gotten. But before we head towards, I think a very important question, which again will be very relevant to the students who is hearing it. So you just talked about your feeling, your set of minds and your questions a couple of years back. Now you have been also counseling and helping students these days of late for the last couple of years to move abroad.
Yes.
What shift in the mindset that you're seeing in the students right now? Because now they're more informed, they have more information. Do you see a different level of confidence? Do you see a different level of questions altogether that they come up? Are you seeing them more prepared, or you see them bombarded by too much information, which is keeping them a little confused and high expectation out there? So what is the shift or the change that you see in a student mindset?
Sure. There is a significant shift from where we came to what I see now.
Yeah.
Before they walk into my office, they already know most of the information, right?
Yeah.
I just have to give them the perspective of what makes sense for them. So I end up asking them more and more questions to understand what their end goal is.
Yeah.
For them, they just want to go study abroad.
Yeah.
They don't know which university, which location, which cluster, or which degree would help them achieve what they want to know. That's where, 90% they already know. I give them information on what makes sense for them to do.
Yeah.
And then I give them homework to go back and think and come back. They definitely have a lot more information. In some cases, probably more information than what we know. Per se, a lot of things have changed. At the same time, that more information has bombarded them with a lot of questions. Am I doing the right thing? Is it worth doing it? They see the stats of the employability, unemployability, and the geopolitics which is happening.
Yeah.
They have a lot of questions on that end, which we did not think. And frankly speaking, I don't think they should be worried about all those things per se. They should get that experience and try to achieve what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
And the return on investment is always there.
Yeah.
Financially, it always makes sense to go there. Emotionally, would they be really satisfied
Right.
with what they're trying to do?
Yeah.
That's where I come in and play a role, saying that if you go to this part of the world,
Yeah.
or if you go to this university who's
Yeah.
good in so and so,
Yeah.
then you will achieve that emotional satisfaction what you're trying to achieve.
Fair, fair. I think that only someone who has spent good amount of time and seen himself can better counsel someone. Perfect. So we'll come more on this topic again sometime later on, where we talk about how does it make sense today to do that study in terms of pay parity, in terms of opportunities in the country itself, and also a lot of forward-looking universities like us. Typically, we are working closely with university, and we are starting up a school of tech, where we try to bring all those things from the West, from the developed countries, and bring in house. And we'll talk on that, what are options the student has.
Sure.
But let's understand now, picture how typically the life of a student looks like in New York. Let's say that someone is studying in NYU. How normally the classes happens. We compare ourselves, we as an Indian, we are normally a shy person, right? We are not very expressive.
Very true.
And when we see people from the developed countries, their facial expression talks not only when they speak, but
Yes.
they're very expressive, very
Yes.
outspoken,
Yes.
very loud. So normally a shy guy, which I'm assuming that you were,
Yes.
as you mentioned that you came up from Tumkur, and then
Right.
how you excited were. And likewise, I'm trying to picture any Indian student who comes from a small town,
Yes.
wants to go to the New York and
Yes.
study, where he has a team of, say, 5 people, all from all different countries, someone from Russia, someone from the American, and they're all talking loud. They're all very expressive. And I'm a shy person. All my life, I have been only been communicating with my close friends. These are totally new people.
Yes.
Do you find it takes time for someone to adjust to it? How does somebody feels? Does somebody feel some inferiority complex? You feel bullied down, or you feel how tough is that to adapt to that? And does university play some role in it to help you come out of
Absolutely. See, the concept of mentorship
that? Yeah.
plays a major role in American universities.
Okay.
I had the privilege of some good mentor seniors, but I had the privilege of working with the Dr. Mel Horwich. I should take his name.
Okay.
The guy who molded me, mentored me, and taught me so many things.
Yeah.
He lifted me from ground up.
Yeah.
To coming to your question, when you see a lot of people who are loud and communicative, they're really polished way of doing things. You know what he told me once? I met him during the first summer of my education there. He said, we used to go, we're really good friends, we got along very well. Very senior fellow. He did his bachelor's in Princeton, did his master's in Harvard Business School, and he was a professor in MIT. So 3 best possible universities in US. He had been all there, right?
Yeah.
So that guy tells, and for whatever reason he liked me.
Yeah.
And he said, Vivek, you know what you should do?
Yeah.
You should go to nyu.edu/events.
Yeah.
That's where all the events are listed.
Yeah.
There is a seminar, there is a social activities which happening in the ground. There are at least 10 activities in a given day which are happening there.
Yeah.
Just go there.
Yeah.
You RSVP yourself, just go there. Do nothing, just sit there and observe
Yeah.
how they talk,
Yeah.
how they eat, how they communicate with each other, what happens in that room. I did that very, very studiously.
Yeah.
And that changed everything.
Yeah.
How to communicate,
Yeah.
as you said, their body language, how they eat, how they drink tea, Even we never taught table manners or
Yeah.
etiquettes per se,
Yeah.
but I learned all this because
Yeah.
this fellow told me to go sit in that.
Yeah.
And of course it did take
Yeah.
some time. I was very shy to talk to,
Yeah.
but this helped me to come out of that. And even now I tell all the mentors or the mentees who I mentor them,
Yeah.
go do that. There's
Yeah.
nothing. You know what he said? You go talk to somebody.
Yeah.
He may think that you are funny or don't know how to
Yeah.
behave yourself,
Yeah.
communicate. You may never see that person again in your entire life.
True, that's
Why
very
do you
strong.
care
Yeah.
what he thinks?
Yeah.
You got to know what your capacity is.
Yeah.
If you blabbered, you blabbered. Next time you will do better with someone else.
True.
Just experiment yourself.
True.
And that gave me a lot of confidence, and that's what I did.
Awesome. Another trait that I have seen very common. Normally, we Indians, we have a very strong preconceived notions about ourselves. That boss, मैंने पढ़ाई करी है, I've done studies, I will only do this level of jobs. Right? For example, if I ask any of my students here that, okay, you're working, but can you do some part-time job in a restaurant as a waiter? I think he will, first of all, either get offended or otherwise he'll not draw the courage to even tell his parents that, Papa, I want to go and work in a. But I have seen many of my friends who have done their masters and PhD there, well-to-do family they have been doing. But all of them have definitely spent some kind of time where they are actually either in the Starbucks making coffee, or they are working as a part-time waiters, or they're picking up anything. So what that motivates people to go there? I don't strongly feel it's only the money part, because I see most of the
No.
people who go from here, their parents are, as you said, the parents, even if they don't afford, but they make sure that their kids get the better.
Very true.
But the same student, the same psyche in India, he was very shy, he was not able to do it. He moves to the US and then he's open to do any. So what that change in the culture, or what that that cosmopolitan exposure that they get, or kind of the the people that they meet through, what actually changes which lets the people do that thing in the US, but maybe they'll not pick that up in India itself.
Absolutely. I've seen that very common, very
Yeah.
common. All these rich kids,
Yeah.
they have enough balance in their account, but still want to be part of. Because the system is like that,
Yeah.
right? It is very common for you to go and
Yeah.
do. Nobody is
Yeah.
judgmental.
Yeah.
But if here in India you would see somebody doing that,
Yeah.
they will judge you instantly.
Yeah.
But that judgment is
Yeah.
not there.
Yeah.
Hence the confidence in doing something like that.
Yeah.
A lot of these jobs, just to give you a small example, in the first summer where I met Mel, that's how I met him.
Yeah.
As a part-time teaching assistant, I spent 2 of my semesters, right?
Yeah.
And then the first summer, which was my third semester,
Yeah.
I had no job because my professor Gallagher, who was
Yeah.
teaching CC++, he was not teaching that summer. So I had to look for something else.
Mm.
So I went around in streets looking for job. I got an offer from a restaurant to be a waiter.
Yeah.
I went to a petrol bunk, gas
Yeah.
station,
Yeah.
and I got there.
Yeah.
The waiter job was paying me $8 an hour, and the gas pump was paying me $6. And then the next day, I got introduced to Mel. He was in
Yeah.
the tech management department with a fellow friend,
Yeah.
and there they were looking for an assistant who
Yeah.
would
Hmm.
open the doors
Yeah.
for the class at 6 in the evening,
Yeah.
put the name cards.
Yeah.
Mel was teaching the MBAs at that time.
Yeah.
Put their name cards in front of them.
Yeah.
Make sure that the food is served at 8:30 in the evening, and when the classes are done, turn off the lights, close the projectors, put
Yeah.
everything back inside the locker, and lock the room and go. That was my first assistant job, which as a grad assistant, which I did. I mean, of course, the pay was probably equivalent. I don't remember what I paid, probably $10 an hour or so. But I picked up, instead of going to a restaurant or gas station, I ended up
Yeah.
doing this. There, no job is small. No
Yeah.
job is small.
Yeah.
From where I come from, I would probably have not done that if
Yeah.
I had to do it here.
Yeah.
But there, I was very happily doing so,
Yeah.
and I'm
Is
glad
it
I did
because-
so.
Because we see everyone doing that.
Exactly.
So you feel like, I should also learn that. Because many of my friends, they just joined Starbucks because they wanted to learn how to make that coffee.
That's it. It's for the experience you
So
join.
they learned the skill, plus they were making some money.
Money.
Fair point. So now it's an easy statement, people saying that when you get a job in US, that 15x more than what you get in India. Said that, of late, if you see, if I take example of US itself, the president of US say that is America first approach, right?
Right.
They have been trying to push companies to build up the plants in America itself. Do you see to some level, because I have been training few of the students who were Indians, they have been studying in the Ivy League there, and typically when the placement came up, few of them I've heard that they feel there's some kind of preference which goes on. I would like to hear your experience that how it was back then, and of late because of the change geopolitical situation and the administration, how do you see, is there any impact on that also? Because many of the students, when they're going for the study, it's not only the study alone, but they're
Correct.
also looking for a career post that.
Correct.
So what was the scenario back then when you were doing, and how you see the current change in the geopolitical situation?
I went at the worst possible time, if you ask me. I went there, I started my MS in 2007 fall.
Okay, that
And
the
I
Great
graduated.
Recession.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I graduated when everything was,
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
So I would say about 80% of my classmates or friends who were there, they all came back home.
Okay.
Coming back home was not a choice for us.
Yeah.
Coming from a middle class family, I've spent so
Yeah.
much money.
Yeah.
There is no way in hell I'm going to make so
Yeah.
much money
Yeah.
in India. So I had to stay and do something
Yeah.
about it. I think that gave me more courage to look for other opportunities
Yeah.
and try
Yeah.
to get innovative and so forth. However, at that time, President Obama came in and he introduced something called STEM OPT. That was
Okay.
introduced, and we were the first beneficiaries of that.
Okay.
Anybody who's studying in US
Mhm.
get to stay on student visa for 12 months,
Okay.
and then you get into lottery system and all
Mm.
that stuff. If you go through the STEM degree,
Mhm.
science, technology, engineering,
Mhm.
and management,
Mhm.
if you go through that,
Mm.
you get an additional 24 months of optional practical training,
Right.
which legally allows you to continue
Yeah.
working
Yeah.
for 2 more hours.
Yeah.
So you get 12 months plus 24, that's 36 months.
3 years.
3 years, and you get 6 times visa lottery. You apply in the regular H1,
Yeah.
and then you have a separate quota for masters in every
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
So you go through that cycle 6 times, and likelihood of getting your H1 and
Was
getting a
much higher.
job
Yeah.
is much higher.
Yeah.
So that helped at that time, and it was fantastic. We all got benefited.
So
out of
that
it.
way, now the recession was there, but I believe Obama was pretty open. I
Pretty open.
think
He was open for
the
it. Yes.
and I think that's when the whole migration of India going to the US, that was seeing a peak. Every
Peak.
year we are
Exactly.
seeing more and more students
Exactly.
going up.
Right.
But if we see a trend right now for the last couple of years, we have seen that the students going to the US, students going to Canada had seen a significant drop.
Correct.
Whereas at the same time, it's not that the pattern has changed. The people have still picked up other destinations, for example, Germany.
Correct.
So if I just talk about US itself, that time when the Obama was there and they have a pretty open policy and a lot of supportive for the people who were in the STEM itself.
Right.
Today, the Trump talks different language. He talks
Absolutely.
about the American first.
Absolutely.
And also, we are not in the great of the economic situation also. I think we are also grappling with a lot of, the slow recession that has been
Yes.
crippling us for the quite few months now.
Yes.
And at the same time, he has an American first policy that he's always talking very loud on. Do you see that as a challenge for a person who is going from India right now, spending a lot of money? A lot of visa constraints has also come up.
Yes.
There also a new rule come up which we have to pay $100,000 just for
Correct,
applying the
for the
H1B
H1,
itself.
right.
So one is a high cost. Second is kind of the Trump is a little biased toward the America first. How safe and open? And if I just talk about the US only here right now, does it make sense for someone to do a higher degree in the US right now with a great risk of a little bias? Because then the president himself is imposing Apple, Google, and everyone that they should hire Americans first itself.
Right.
So is that as a risk right now, or
Absolutely. I wouldn't recommend anybody considering seriously
Yeah.
that you would make. See, first of all, getting an appointment is a challenge
Yeah.
for visa.
yeah,
Getting admission is okay. A lot of universities, even Trump, not just only the companies,
Yeah.
he is forcing universities not
Yeah.
to admit international
Yeah.
students.
Yeah.
One being Harvard Business School, he has
Yeah.
stopped the funding for them because
Yeah.
they were admitting, or they didn't want to stop admitting international students.
Yeah.
Getting into school itself is a big thing.
Yeah.
Once you get in, getting visa is another
Yeah.
challenging.
Yeah.
Trump has been very vocal about it, as you
Yeah.
mentioned. Student visas are getting rejected left, right, and center. Even if you get lucky and get your visa, when
Yeah.
you go there, a lot of students have been sent back after a semester. So,
Yeah.
So the future is very uncertain. Let's
Yeah.
say you finish your master's as well, then getting a job
Yeah.
is close to impossible right now
Yeah.
for two reasons. One is, as I said, they've been forced to hire America first or domestic candidates first. And of course, there are a lot of international students or employees who are already working in the company.
Yeah.
So there is no need for a fresher to enter into the market.
Yeah.
There is already experienced techies or management person, whatever, in any sector you
Yeah.
take it.
Yeah.
So they already exist.
Yeah.
Keeping them on board itself is challenge. So the company will think twice before hiring somebody fresh or new.
Fair.
So for right now, US market is pretty shady, and I wouldn't recommend somebody to consider that seriously. There are plenty of other choices to consider.
Understood. Cool. So we have so far talked from the perspective of our students and parents and their life in India and why they want to go there. There's a solid point that if someone is looking for a foreign degree from abroad, irrespective of the destination, I think they're looking for a better life,
Right.
better degree, better salary, and that's what their parents also want.
Right.
So that's a win from their perspective. But when I see from the lens of India as a country, every time a candidate moves from India and goes to the foreign country for their higher studies, because post that, because they have spent enough, they will also work there and they will start contributing in their economy. What is that India loses the most? Every time a student decides कि boss मैं नहीं पढ़ूंगा India में, I'll go and study abroad. Maybe it is good for that candidate and their family, but what we as a country lose when every candidate moves on?
It's a talent drain. It's a big time talent drain. The talent would, if opportunities did exist,
Yeah.
he could have added so much to the Indian economy
Yeah.
financially, right?
Yeah.
Creating employment. Think of an entrepreneur. He could have created hundreds and thousands of jobs,
Yeah.
helping so many families, not just his family. So I think we're losing a lot of technical talent or talent per se in any, that drain is definitely happening. However, India is changing, a lot more opportunities to say,
Yeah.
and a lot of students or any individuals who are thinking
Yeah.
of that should consider doing
Yeah.
something here as well.
Yeah.
That's a big, any time a student or goes to abroad, any country,
Yeah.
it's a loss for an India.
Perfect. So, cool. So now we have understood what's best, what are the challenges right now, and we'll also try to understand the comparison. So, 15 years from now or 10 years from the now, when someone has to take a decision that I'll go and study in abroad or I'll do a job there, one of the big factor was the difference in the salaries or the difference in the opportunities. India was mostly labor-oriented market that time, and very few handful of the opportunities. And even if the salary is there, the same company in India would pay X, and there they might pay 15X, right? There was a huge difference.
Correct.
Of late that we have seen for the last couple of years, India is seeing those, tech booms, startup
Yes.
booms, right?
Yes.
And somehow I also feel the parity of the salaries which people were getting in India at that time and today, it has changed a lot. And somehow I feel the imbalance of the salaries of what someone does in a leadership position in India and what someone gets in US, that's not that big. Because when we talk about the salary becomes 15x, you also have to think from a lens that their cost of living is also accordingly bigger, right? You have we have the expensive flats, you have the expensive food, everything that you pay here is in dollar itself, which is again, So the net difference between what you have in India and the kind of things that you can get in with the money that you earn today, I feel that's not only a strong factor now left that someone should move on, right? So in the today's context, if someone has to decide that I have to go and do the studies abroad itself, apart from the salary, like what are the other things that normally you will recommend that, hey, if you think of these things, if you feel that that is not present in India, you're not getting it, then you should look for outside. So what will be those things? And that will be my follow to the next question, that what made you return back? But we'll first cover this one.
Right. As I mentioned this earlier as well, it's the experience, what teaches you. The process of going through the masters, right? It's not just the degree itself.
Yeah.
How you spend those 2 years matters a lot. And you are not the same individual after the graduation.
Yeah.
Forget about the financials. I'm not talking about the financials at all.
Yeah.
It's the other experiences and the diversity what you grow. You as an individual grow significantly. Beyond your own imagination, you will grow. And that is worth going.
Yeah.
That is definitely worth going. Talking about salaries, yes, some salaries are not very different. But still, you cannot compare what you would make there to what you would make here. I mean, as I said, 10, 15x may have
Yeah.
come down to 5, 6x
Yeah.
per
But
se.
still it's
But
huge.
still, it's huge. For somebody in
Yeah.
US who's making,
Yeah.
let's say, $1 million,
Yeah.
here you make, a 1 or 2
Yeah,
crores.
maybe the
It's still,
difference might not be big at the top level, but maybe the starting salary there's a huge
there is
difference.
huge
Yeah.
difference. And the crowd, the
Yeah.
majority of the crowd which goes in
Is
are
in the
in
start
that.
the lower pyramid where the salary difference is huge. Yeah.
Yes, it's huge. So they would still go for it.
Yeah.
And also, there is a lot more opportunity for them to be, I would say, intellectually showcase their talents,
Yeah.
the opportunity which exists there,
Mm-hmm.
uh, which may not be available in India right now.
Yeah.
That's one thing,
Yeah.
which is definitely part of it. And the startup ecosystem is much more mature
Yeah.
compared to what we see in India. We're
Yeah.
just getting started in the
Yeah.
startup ecosystem,
Yeah.
where they've already matured and hundreds and thousands of companies have,
Yeah.
graduated from these incubators per se. For that experience
Yeah.
and access to the best of the best
Yeah.
center of excellences,
Yeah.
I think that's still pretty comparable. If you talk about IISc or IITs, there are only a handful of them.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you would find those
Yeah.
kind of universities in every city
Yeah.
or town in US, if I
Yeah.
talk about US. So the access to the talent and the cutting edge R&D
Yeah.
is more there
Yeah.
compared to here.
Yeah. Awesome. So now I'll tell few stats first and then ask that question. So as per the official stats, only 35% of the people who go abroad, they come back.
Okay.
My personal stat says that 0% of people who goes out come back because none of my friend who shifted outside came back.
Right.
I see you one of those rare people who spend enough time there. You studied, you saw that struggling phase and you made it big. You were the part of the ecosystem. You spent good amount of time there. What was that which motivated you to come back and be the part of that again small town that you started with?
Right,
You had
right.
the big dreams.
Right.
The shiny New York was glittering to you. What made you come back?
I guess we are all, the Indians are a little bit more aggressive on the emotional side,
Okay.
to
Yeah.
start with.
Yeah.
I believe that every individual should
Yeah.
give back to community, right?
Yeah.
Whatever we do, and in
Yeah.
any form, we should give, because community, the society has given us so much. We got into this world with nothing, and society has helped us to
Yeah.
grow to where we are, and somewhere we have to give that part.
Yeah.
Me being a small town boy,
Yeah.
went there, somebody did mentor me, right, to motivated me to go there.
Yeah.
And when I went there, I met Mel, who mentored me again to
Yeah.
become the person who I am.
Yeah.
As much as like how I should wear, what I should wear, what color combination. He used to mentor me all night. We used
Everything.
to spend late nights talking about these things.
Yeah.
He taught me a lot of administration. He was the head of that tech management division, and at some point after a few months, I was leading that division on behalf of him. So I had all that. I had that learning,
Yeah.
and that's when I decided I want to give back to community, which I did something. And I've been mentoring students for last decade or so while I was in US as well.
Yeah.
Well, the question of coming back to India, right, come from a very middle class background. I've never seen somebody who said, I have enough money,
Okay.
right? So
That's
you
true.
always want make more money,
Yeah.
right? So I said, we have lived with very less. And we have a lot more than what we had before, and we are
Yeah.
comfortable now also. So that comfortness is what we define.
Yeah.
It's not someone else. I can travel in Maruti 800. I've traveled in Mercedes-Benz to Mustang to whatnot. So I can travel. I can get acquainted or get used to whatever
Yeah.
I want.
Yeah.
So for me, coming back, the biggest drain there was emotional drain.
Yeah.
Being away with family.
Yeah.
Parents are not getting any
Yeah.
younger.
Yeah.
I have one younger brother
Yeah.
who studied engineering here, and
Yeah.
he studied his master's from Arizona State, and he's
Yeah.
living in Cupertino, working
Yeah.
for Apple. So both of boys were here.
Yeah.
So we thought, at least someone should take. And what's the best way? I felt I've earned in millions.
Yeah.
I've seen it all.
Yeah.
Happy with what I have.
Yeah.
Let's go back. If I can build a career in New York, where I knew literally
No one.
nobody.
Yeah.
I can definitely go back to my own place
Yes.
and do something on my own.
Yeah.
With that notion, I decided to move back. Luckily,
Yeah.
family also did support in that decision, saying, yes, let's do
Yeah.
that. I think a lot of your friends don't want to come because their
Yeah.
families might object for it. But I
Yeah.
got lucky that way.
Yeah.
So we decided to move back. And when I came back, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I said, it was an instantaneous decision.
Yeah.
One Sunday morning, we decided, let's go back. Called up parents and said, we are moving back. Next 1 month, I liquidated all the assets I had, and then I moved back to India. So, and then, started consulting,
Yeah.
working with, and here I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm happy with the choices I have made. And I think India is more suitable for a person like me, and it's more entrepreneurial. First is you have a lot of helping hands.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to do, you have. There you
Yeah.
have to do everything
Yeah.
on your own,
Yeah.
which was the biggest challenge for us. And here I get to work with, I have an IT company which I work with a lot of company developing tech products. I work with universities. I work with you guys.
Yeah.
Here I can use my experience to build something much
Yeah.
more meaningful.
Yeah.
I think the impact I can do here in India is more than what I could have done when I stayed in US. So I decided to move back.
So now, since we are having this conversation, I couldn't hold myself, but uh, because very lately the budget has been announced, and the stance of the government looks little confusing to me. So all these years when I've been growing up, government has been strongly talking about that we have to stop the brain drain. We'll do every effort which is possible to motivate people to study here.
Right.
And for that sake, now it's not sufficient, but they have put up the budget by some percent, invested in opening up new AIMS and ITs and all those new institutes. But at the same time, they have given a big relief to the parents who wants to send their wards abroad. So normally, lately, a student or a parent has to pay somewhere around 5% TCS when they
Right.
send their students abroad.
Right.
That has been cut down to 2%. Is
Right.
that an indirect signal which the government is giving to the parents of the country that, hey, it's an inevitable thing, we have given up, and we now support you and you moving your wards outside? What is your take on it?
I would agree with you. No matter how much, like earlier we talked about how many institutions they want to bring.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
peanuts to
Yeah,
compare to
yeah.
the population what we have and the
Yeah.
aspirants what we
Yeah.
have. So that is why indirectly government is acknowledging.
Yeah.
What I feel is they're
Yeah.
acknowledging that there is
That's pretty strong statement. Yeah.
So hence we are going to reduce this. And on the other hand, if you look at it, that 5% was never a icebreaker. Parents would not stop sending their wards because we have to do 5% TCS. It's just a hold up of money for maximum 12 months.
Yeah.
When you do your returns, you would get that money back.
True.
Right? It's just making it easy. It's like
Yeah.
throwing a bone for a dog,
Yeah.
instead of
Yeah.
giving
Yeah.
a full
Yeah.
meal.
Yeah.
So just to keep the parents happy, I think they have done that. Indirectly acknowledging that they will not be able to support the need of the youths who are coming up.
Yeah. But then that's put me into again a very dicey question. So now you're back, and now I see you're very active in the university ecosystem.
Right.
You yourself teach students, and at the
Yes.
same time, you're also advisor to the Honorable Chancellor of SAHE.
Yes.
How do you see this changed India? Or, and no, when I say that, I don't want to sugarcoat anything. I think unless until we address the problems in the market directly, we'll not be able to solve it. So if we try
Correct.
to just sugarcoat it and say that, hey, I'm from India, everything is best, I don't want to build that narrative as a part of this discussion. So I think we
Correct.
should very boldly stand out and say that something which is not working, we should
It's
call
not
it out.
work- Right.
And then we talk about the steps that we take for it. So first of all, I'd like to hear from you, what are the biggest challenges that you see in the Indian education system, universities? Because as you rightly said, it's not only the responsibility of IITs and NITs to complete everything in the country, right?
Correct.
I believe 90% of the students, or even a bigger fraction of that, has to be addressed by the private institutes in the country,
Correct.
right? It's never possible for a country of this magnitude that everybody can go and study in the public institute itself. So not only the public institutes are the one where the government is more interested in, but also the private institute, the private state universities have the big roles to play, and they also have to evolve. And that's when the bigger Bharat, the Viksit Bharat ka jo dream hai, I think will be able to achieve that. So
Yes.
first of all, I would like to you to touch upon what are the bigger challenges that you have seen, because you work at a grassroots level and you see
Right.
the daily operational challenges, and then where we head towards, and what are the things that we have in the pipeline for the coming years for the
Sure.
students.
As you said, the education system in India at the root level needs a big overhaul, right? Your syllabus is there, which is probably done 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Every year you change 2%, 3%, 5%.
Yeah.
A lot of it is on root marke padna hai. That does not work elsewhere, right? So whether you understand the concept or not, the way how we teach
Yeah.
has to change fundamentally.
Yeah.
The biggest challenge is not the students, it's the instructors or the faculty.
Right.
There is a huge resistance from them to adopt to this new way of doing it. Either they don't want to do it, or
Yeah.
they don't know what to do,
Yeah.
or they don't know how to do it. I
Yeah.
think we have to create an infrastructure or a support system to
Yeah.
train the trainers,
Yeah.
right? A lot of that needs to happen if you really want to bring the change.
Yeah.
So that was my biggest challenge when I saw, you
Yeah.
have a syllabus which is outdated, you're trying to teach,
Yeah.
whether you learn it or not, you should be. I've seen some of the students who can replicate exact same sentence as your textbook says,
Yeah.
without a
Yeah.
missing a comma and
Yeah.
a full stop.
Yeah.
That much of by hat system is built in us, and that has to change.
Yeah.
I think that's the root cause for significant problem.
Yeah.
We do not emphasize on critical thinking,
Yeah.
and we also do not emphasize on fearless innovation, right?
Yeah.
This is that nobody is there to question you,
Yeah.
challenge the thought process.
Yeah.
That is missing in our teaching.
Yeah.
I think lot of, as you said, government will not be able to do enough,
Yeah.
never be able to do enough in
Yeah.
this sector. I think a lot of private universities
Yeah.
and every other university has to join hands
Yeah.
in making this a success.
Yeah.
And when I saw that, I wouldn't say that we have achieved it 100%, but what we try to do is bring that practical learning into the classrooms.
Yeah.
Instead of teaching them what the syllabus
Yeah.
in the course which we teach, we say,
Yeah.
you study, this is the book, this is the chapter,
Yeah.
you are expected to read it and then come to the class.
Yeah.
And in the class, we are going to spend time on why it made sense, what was the critical thinking behind it,
Yeah.
what did the author wanted to achieve, or what was the logic behind it.
Yeah.
We try to teach the logic.
Yeah.
Once that's done, we also take it to the next level, how it is practically implemented. That will give them a real sense of, yes, this can be done. And we'll take it to the next level of the third part of the conversation, where we teach about what can be done better.
Yeah.
Do you think, would you accept it in its
Yeah.
current state,
Yeah.
or do you think this can be changed or improvised?
Yeah.
So that kind of teaching and methodology we are trying to implement in what we teach, and it has helped.
Yeah.
But we are not being successful in implementing across the
Yeah.
university per se.
Yeah.
In bits and pieces we are trying to do, and it takes a lot of time to convince the teachers
Yeah.
to adopt this
Yeah.
teaching methodology.
Yeah.
That has been biggest challenge for us.
Yeah. And again, as we said that, it's off the record, so we would like to take some strong statements. Do you see the reason for we lagging behind? Definitely one is that we have been a developing country and we didn't have enough budgets to put to our universities, not only the public, but I believe the private university also deserve the equal support from the government, because it's a huge investment, just expecting that some person put all the load on his or her shoulder. And again, it's a non-profit organization where you cannot raise funds from the venture. So it's a two-way sword, right? Typically you don't support much, and then you don't allow that person to also raise funds from outside and run that system. You call it a non-profit.
Correct.
But this university requires a real state. It requires a big infrastructure. It requires
Correct.
those kind of support. So that's a big,
Right.
big challenge.
Correct.
So how do you see this when it comes about schools, when it comes about universities, and people call it boss, not for profit. You're not here to make profit. But then how the university will be able to bring the right talent? How will you be able to give the right salaries to the people who are deserving? And then you are saying that, hey, I'm not getting the right faculties, but then you don't have the funds to do that. So how do you see this as a challenge? And do we see any solution of it?
It's like chicken and egg problem, right?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say it's a perfect solution, but
Yeah.
it's not undoable or not doable.
Yeah.
We can definitely achieve. I think a lot of US universities succeed because of their collaborations with the industry.
Right.
And that's what we are heading towards
Yeah.
doing as well.
Yeah.
The industry has a lot of funds because they are for profit,
Yeah.
and they also have a lot of problem statements.
Yeah.
Try to bring those problem statements
Yeah.
and some funding from the industry,
Yeah.
bring that problem statement into classrooms, and you will be able to
Yeah.
match. I think you have to find a synergy between the university as well as the industry cluster
Yeah.
and help each other.
Yeah.
I think that would solve the financial issue.
Right.
As I said, and my university does take up a lot of investment to build that infrastructure.
Yeah.
To get that brain in, you also need funds, and
Yeah.
that where the industry and the partnerships.
Yeah.
I think collaboration is the way to go.
Yeah.
Interdisciplinary
Yeah.
collaborations
Yeah.
will help go a long way.
Right. Definitely, yes. I think in the private space, and that's what we have been seeing of late changes in the market, where uh, the universities are now much more open. They have understood that they have to see try to be abreast with the dynamics of the nature right now. If I talk about the technology, is moving at such a fast pace.
Right.
And again, a little controversial, but typically in the kind of setup that we are, the government bodies that we have in the country right now, changing syllabus itself take years. And these days,
Absolutely.
in the age of artificial intelligence that we are in, every 3 months a new model is coming up.
Absolutely.
The whole way how technology is being taught, we are sitting right now in 2026. The students who are going to take admission in the universities, let's say the conventional university is not looking to, change its perspective of how the education has to happen. I'm strongly of the opinion that by the time the student comes out from those universities in 28 and 29, they would have learned something which would have got obsolete by then. Then how
Correct.
will you say that they will be employable,
Right.
right? So I think that's puts on another perspective. So I think we have kind of partnered together
Yes.
where we just are trying to bring that same philosophy on the table itself. At Sahe and upGrad School of Tech, we are trying to bring the best of all the worlds.
Correct.
Right? So we are trying to bring what the universities are great at. So
Right.
you guys are a big institutes. You are the institution in itself. You bring your own legacy. You bring the discipline. You bring the order, which we have learned over a period of time of passing out the students year over year itself.
Right.
And at the upGrad, we try to bring what we have learned from the outside world. We work with more than 300 universities.
Right.
So we bring those expertise that we have learned and masters while we have been working abroad, and the technology which the need of the hour is. So how do you see this partnership, Dr. Vivek, how it's going to help the students who have to take admission this year? And how do you see as a good welcome change compared to the conventional stance that we'll just go by the rules of the books? We'll only wait till the time the government authorities forces us to make the change and not take any proactive. Because as you said that we are fundamentally very slow in the steps, and normally, with all due respect, but typically when the people have to give example of the university, they always feel that it's a slow process. It
Correct.
takes time. It
Right.
will take its own
Right.
due course of time. So
Right.
how do you see this partnership, and in what direction we are heading towards?
I think from day one, I always, just because of my background,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I've seen it, studied there, been there.
Yeah.
So I had that kind of experience and exposure. And when we started talking about a potential collaboration, I always liked it from day one.
Yeah.
Because this is a perfect blend. What was missing in a typical university,
Yeah.
which upGrad School of Tech is trying to bring the industry partners into this. At the same time, you being, as I said, university is it's a big structured way of
Yeah.
doing things. However, being a A+ accredited deemed university,
Yeah.
we have the flexibility of creating our own syllabus.
Yes.
That gives us the flexibility in changing things however fast I want to do.
Yeah.
So I'm not a typical university which will take ages to do so. I can change whenever I want to change, right? Of course, going through all the protocol per se. But that gives me a lot of flexibility to be more relevant.
Yeah.
Relevance is the key word
Yeah.
here. You have to be more relevant if you want to sustain in this.
Yeah.
I just don't want to be producing one more graduate or an
Yeah.
engineer who is
Yeah.
not job
Yeah.
ready. I want to be able to producing at least 100 of them or 200 of them
Yeah.
who are job ready.
Yeah.
That is my key here.
Yeah.
So producing more quality graduates who
Yeah.
are job ready, who can make an impact is
Yeah.
more meaningful than producing 100 more non-job ready graduates.
Yeah.
So I think we are on the right track.
Yeah.
Absolutely, a huge history of Sahe, Siddhartha, and the management behind it, and the people who
Yeah.
are working for it,
Yeah.
and what upgrad SOT has to bring,
Yeah.
and youngsters like you
Yeah.
who would want to collaborate and open for interdisciplinary research and collaboration. I think we are on the right track, and I think, honestly speaking, I think we'll flourish like anything.
Yeah. Very rightly said, I think, and I wish that more universities should be more forward looking, like how we are at the Sahe, right from the day one when we met, and respected Chancellor sir also. He has a
Yes.
great vision. He is very forward looking. And the best part is that we are ready to accept our challenges.
Correct.
And unless until we identify what our mistakes are or what our challenges are, it's very
Yes.
tough to eradicate that. And I think that's something which is very, very bold about this initiative that we are taking into. Cool. So, Dr. Vivek, we are coming closer to the end of this segment.
Sure.
And then I want you to think at the India level, right?
Mhm.
Do you see India to one of those destinations in the coming year where people aspire of? For example, right now, India is a medical destination. The reason is not that we are great, but typically we provide a very affordable medical educations. Still, India is hosting a lot of foreign nationals from the, but typically the people who come from the outside, they're coming from the underdeveloped
Right.
countries typically.
Right.
When can we see this change where people from America, China, typically they are choosing for one of the universities in India to come and learn? Do you see it is going to possible? And you can bluntly say that, hey, I'm going to study any time in future. And if you have to put some efforts, right? If you have, let's say that you got that superpowers, right? And you have those funds, you have all those permissions. What are the basic couple of changes that you will try to do, which will set India in that direction that we become? We have been calling ourselves as educational guru all this time, but in the real sense, where the world also acknowledges, and we only don't shout our lungs out that we are the educational gurus of the world.
Right. I think at some point we were the educational gurus, right?
Yeah.
Nalanda and Takshashila, they were
Yeah.
just not names.
Yeah.
We were teaching the world.
True.
At some point, yes, of course, we have gone back and the others have maybe moved very fast.
Yeah.
I do see a future where a lot of international students would come to India for education.
Yeah.
It may not be in a very short time. It
Yeah.
will take some time for
Yeah.
that to happen.
Yeah.
But I do see with the trend which is India is going, I definitely anticipate. First reason is our population and the talent which is
Yeah.
there. Where there is more population, there is a lot of problems to be solved,
Yeah.
which means there is a lot more opportunities to be considered. There is an ecosystem which is trying to build for startup and entrepreneurship and interdisciplinary research. I think that is wide open. And you talked about medical education, people
Yeah.
want to come. If you go to US,
Yeah.
the patient to doctor ratio is so huge
Yeah.
that you'll not get.
Yeah.
There, in order to get your USMLE, you have to practice on a simulation to make sure that the patient
Yeah.
is not dead. But India, you can actually touch and treat
Yeah.
patients.
Yeah.
Nowhere else in the world you will have this beautiful opportunity where you can
Yeah.
practice and
Yeah.
learn about it. More than
Yeah.
practice, you're learning live with the patient and treating them and
Yeah.
helping them.
Yeah.
I think India will be an hub for international students
Yeah.
who would want to come and learn.
Yeah.
And we have seen a lot of universities are trying to set up their campus in India, right?
Yeah.
Even though they would be making more money if the campus was elsewhere, but still they're coming here. I think because of the resources which are available here. I think the government, if I had the superpower, I would do everything in my power to create an ecosystem to build it
Yeah.
rather than just have best of the best faculty, research centers, and the startup ecosystem. If you can do these three things, and everyone will look up for you.
Yeah. Perfect, Dr. Vivek. I think it was a very candid discussion. I think you have very openly admitted all the challenges also, and at the same time you said your fair bit of experience that you had in the US while you were abroad, and all the great work that you have been doing off late. We definitely don't want to share any strong opinions of us. We would like our viewers to understand this perspective. This is a very subjective, and in the country where we live in, it's a very complicated subject where, as you rightly mentioned previously, that education is not always the first option. There is a bigger struggles of survival itself. So we come from that class which is still developing, and that's where a lot of effort, and not only the government but the private bodies like the universities like your who, and like this many other private universities of the country should also have come in the front line and take those initiatives which help us be that educational group again in the real meaning for the entire world. But before we say bye, one final time, Dr. Vivek, I would like you that any closing statement that you have to give to the students of 2026 and ahead. Those are in 12th, those are into their engineering, they are thinking about that what is the best way of learning things, how to make the best in their career, what are the options they have in India. Any closing statement that you'd like to give to those students?
Sure. Just I'll keep it very simple and
Yeah.
brief, right? The students who are in their 12th or early stages of your graduate education, I think the first thing is they have to believe in themselves. You have the potential to do it, and you have to believe in yourself. Don't be shy, go out loud. And critical thinking is at most important. You have to start thinking critically. That will help you to solve issues, real world issues. And the third one, you have to innovate fearlessly. Just coming up with a solution will not help it, but you should also innovate in such a way that it is better and much more meaningful in terms of giving back to the society. And last but not the least, you serve with humility. That takes the cherry on top of the cake. So you serve with humility. With these things, you go ahead and the world is at your feet. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vivek, for having it. It was a wonderful talking to you, and yeah, I think it will be highly beneficial to everyone who's watching this podcast. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
We'll come up
Vishwa.
with another episode. Thank you.
Thank you,
Dr. Vivek.
Vishwa.